This is a training session regarding entering and changing customer information. Customers are stored in the Accounts Receivable module, so we select Customers from the Accounts Receivable menu. Here we have a list of all the customers entered into the system. We can edit one of these customers by clicking on the Change button, or we can add a customer by clicking on the Add button. In this case, we are going to edit one of our existing customers. The system now displays an entry screen for changing our customer information. The first tab stores general information about the customer. Here we can enter the customer name and address information, as well as phone numbers, an email address, and a contact name. We can also enter additional phone numbers and additional contact names if necessary. The next tab is the Miscellaneous tab. Here you can indicate whether the customer is active and whether the customer is currently on credit hold. Check this box to include this customer on printed AR statement reports. Check this box to include this customer on your customer mailing list. If the customer has a non-tax permit, you can enter the permit number and expiration date here. On the right-hand side of the screen, we can enter a default sales tax code or sales tax rate. This will determine the amount of tax that will be added to invoices you create for this customer. You need only enter one or the other, not both. More information on sales tax codes is available in the training session on Setup Accounting Options. Next, we can enter a finance charge rate and the amount of finance charges the customer currently owes. This number is modified by the program each time a finance charge invoice is created or paid off. Here we enter the customer's credit limit. If the user attempts to enter an invoice that will push the customer's balance over this amount, the user will be warned at the time of invoice entry. The system stores the date and amount of the last payment received, and the current customer balance, that is, how much the customer currently owes us. Here we can enter a price level. If the item price file is being used, specify the price level that will dictate what price is charged to this customer when trade invoices are entered into the system. These two fields allow for entry of default GL accounts for use during invoice and receipts entry. Normally, you don't need to put anything in these fields, since the global default accounts for these two functions are stored in System Setup. However, if invoices and receipts for this customer need to have their information tracked in accounts that are different from the norm, you may enter account numbers here. One example is that you may have multiple departments, and you may want the income from this customer to be tracked in a different department. Finally, we can enter a default sales representative. When a new invoice is entered for this customer, the sales rep field on the invoice will default to the sales rep entered here. On the Terms tab, we can enter in the due terms and the discount terms. Due terms are the payment terms that will be offered to this customer when invoices are created. The information for these fields has been retrieved from the Accounts Receivable Setup options. The discount terms are also retrieved from the Setup options. These include the description of the discount terms and a calculator that determines how the discount terms will be derived, and a standard discount rate that we will offer this customer when we invoice them. The next tab contains Customer Notes and User-Defined fields. We can attach a note to this customer record for any reason. For the most part, customer notes are the same as notes entered elsewhere in the system. One added feature of a customer note is that you can tag the note for one or more special behaviors. For example, you may want this note to pop up whenever you're entering an invoice for or a receipt from this customer. If you tag these two special behaviors, the system will pop up this note whenever you select this customer in invoice or receipts entry. In the User-Defined section, we can enter up to 15 different fields of information, which have a common prompt or category for all customers. For example, if we wish to create a category called Payment Speed, we click on the Edit Prompts checkbox and type in Payment Speed. We can then click once again on the Edit Prompts checkbox, and the category has now been changed. At this point, we can enter this particular customer's historical payment speed. All the customer records will have a common prompt called Payment Speed, but they can each have a different value in the field. The next tab is the History tab. This shows all the invoices which have been sent to this customer. We can view open invoices only or all invoices, which includes open and paid invoices. We can also view all the cash receipts which we have entered from this customer. This list shows the receipt amount and how much of that receipt has not yet been reconciled against an invoice. To see more information about a specific invoice or receipt, highlight the desired record and click the View button at the bottom of the window. A screen is displayed with all the detail from the invoice or receipt. We are also able to view any sales orders or price quotes issued to this customer. On this tab, you can enter and track lien releases for customer payments. You can add a lien release record for any payment by clicking the Add button. Now you can retrieve the billing information for any invoice you've posted for this customer by clicking this button. Alternatively, you could type in all of the dates and amounts by hand. On the right-hand side, select what type of lien release form you want to print and optionally provide a signature. Click the Print button and this lien release form will be printed. Here we are able to enter alternate Ship-to addresses for this customer. Each Ship-to address includes the Ship-to name, address, city, state, zip code, and a tax code. Once again, for more information on tax codes, refer to the training session on Setup Accounting Options. Here we can attach documents to this customer record. These can be scanned images, photographs, word processing, or spreadsheet documents. Any document can be attached. Once we have entered our customer information, we click on the OK button to save our entries. This concludes this training session on entering and changing accounts receivable customer information.